We are in the European Southern Observatory in Garching, and Dr.J was so kind to find a few minutes to talk to us and to answer our questions. Actually, I know you are very busy today after this gala event. From the other hand, I just have one question regarding your last broadcast session on the 5th of October. Mm-hmm. And you told about, you had a talk about extremely large telescope in Europe, and you told us about some observation in real time of quasars. Mm-hmm. And you told that it would be very great to see. Could you please just give us some idea on how it could be done? Because I'm very interested in the method, how it could be done.
So what we're talking about here is an old idea that goes back to the 1960s, actually, and Alan Sandage first brought this up. So he's a very famous astronomer, and he first had this idea and wrote a paper about this in the 1960s. So the idea is the following. So the reason we know that the universe is expanding in the first place is because we see the light from distant objects is redshifted. Yeah. So it means the wavelengths are being stretched, and so light that is sent out at a particular wavelength is received at a longer wavelength, at a redder wavelength. And that just simply happens because the universe is expanding and kind of is stretching the light along with it as it is expanding. Now, so what that implies is essentially that as light is traveling across the universe, if it does, so let's say you take some light that was emitted 5 billion years ago or whatever, and it arrives here now. During that time, the universe did some expansion, and that determines how much the light will stretch. If you think about it now, so if you do the same experiment, so you send another light ray from that same object to us again at some other time, then at that other time, the universe, during those 5 billion years that it takes a photon to travel to us, the universe will have a slightly different stretching at that time. So what that means
because of acceleration.
Yeah, because of acceleration or deceleration, doesn't matter, because the expansion history of the universe doesn't expand uniformly. Yeah. It changes its expansion speed, and so therefore it matters whether I measure something now or at some other time. The expansion history changes. Yeah. So the idea is, so I have an object, I measure its redshift very precisely now, and then, at least in theory, if I go and measure the redshift again of that very same object at some other time, that redshift should be different. Because, while that second light ray was traveling to us, the universe actually expanded in a different way than it did when the first light ray traveled to us.
So, as far as I understood, potentially it is possible to measure this change and say the rate.
Exactly. So that's what we're getting at now. So in principle, the redshift should be very different. It should be different. Now, how different are the redshifts? Well, that depends on how much time I can wait between the first and the second measurement. The longer I can wait, the more different the redshifts are going to be. Okay. So now I don't have 10,000 years, I can't wait for 10,000 years, I can say wait for 10 years, and I can have a 10-year time difference between the first measurement and the second measurement. Now the difficult thing is that with only 10 years to wait, the difference between the two redshift measurements is going to be tiny, very, very small. And at this tiny measurement, we cannot, because the difference is so small, it is a very difficult measurement to make, and we can't do that with current technology. With current instruments and current telescopes, that's just not possible.
VLT, precision of VLT, accuracy.
The precision and the accuracy of the VLT is not sufficient to do this. So we actually need a bigger telescope to do this experiment. And with the ELT, it turns out that yes, you can do this experiment, at least in principle. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what kind of objects do I use to make these measurements? And the answer here is that you can observe quasars to do this. Where in fact, it's not actually the quasars themselves that I'm interested in to do this measurement, but in every, what you see in every spectrum of a quasar, so if you take the light from the quasar and break it down into its constituent wavelengths, what you see in every quasar spectrum are the absorption features that are caused by the intergalactic matter, that is all the gas that is between the galaxies. So usually we think of as being empty, but it's not actually empty, there's actually gas in there. And this gas produces a large number of absorption features, and it's these large numbers of absorption features that you can try to use for this experiment. So you come and measure the redshifts of all of these features now, and you come back and do it again 10 years later. And because you can accumulate good statistics, because you have so many absorption features, that helps you then in trying to detect this effect of the redshift actually changing within a space of, say, 10 or 20 years. And that effect is, if you can measure this, then this is direct dynamical evidence of the changing expansion speed of the universe. So the change in redshift is directly related to the change in the rate of the expansion speed of the universe. And that in turn, if you can measure that, that tells you what the universe is made of. So whether, how much matter and how much dark energy or other exotic types of energy there are in the universe.
Will these measurements be performed in infrared or in visual diapason?
So in the version of the experiment that I have in mind, it will be in the optical. It will be in principle, it's perfectly thinkable of doing it in the infrared, or indeed even in the radio astronomy. In fact, people have thought very hard whether it might be better doing this in the radio regime, because at radio frequencies you get extremely precise measurements of redshifts. Your precision is just much higher than it ever can be in the optical. So people thought about doing this, but for other reasons it's actually not that good doing it in the optical, mainly because you don't have the right targets to do this.
So possibly you will be using quasars on the middle distances, because as far as I understood, light should be redshifted so much into infrared.
Right, exactly. So the kind of quasars we are interested in are those at redshifts between around 2 and say 4. If you go to too high a redshift, then also the density of the intergalactic matter becomes so high that you don't see individual absorption features anymore. It all kind of blends together, and then you lose all the sensitivity to the effect. But you want to go down to relatively low redshifts, and the reason for doing that is because that's where the acceleration of the universe becomes visible in this effect, and it's the acceleration that people are really interested in at the moment, because that is a very strange effect. That the fact that the expansion of the universe is accelerating is very difficult to explain in current physics, and we're pretty sure that the explanation for this accelerated expansion will involve new physics, either new gravity, either there's something wrong with our understanding of how gravity works, or alternatively, our understanding of gravity is fine, and there's just some very exotic energy in the universe that we call dark energy, simply because we don't know what else to call it, but it has very exotic properties and doesn't really fit into the standard model of physics at the moment. And that's what the Nobel Prize was given for last year. That's why this is so interesting, because there is new physics in this. That's why this is so interesting. And so the acceleration of the universe becomes visible in this experiment that I just described if you can observe quasars at relatively low redshifts at 2 and below. And so that's kind of what we'd like to do.
Thank you very much. I've got so many questions, but unfortunately we have to wrap up. Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome,
Dr. Liske. I would like just to make some small gift to you.
Excellent.
This is a T-shirt for our blog.
Okay.
It means live universe.
Live universe.
Living universe.
Okay.
Because we are
Nebula Cast.
Nebula Cast, yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
This is my blog, and this is called so because we are living in a changing universe, and this universe is changing so interestingly that you're admiring this. You cannot just sit and see.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Dr. Joe.
Thanks very much. Thanks.